Hi, welcome back. Boy, these weeks are just flying by. Wednesday again. Well, today we're going to continue talking about breaking down the illusions that we have about ourselves, others, Hashem himself, and what do you replace those illusions with? With truth. We're going to go from processing, we're going to see, but when we're in that state, where we're in that imaginary, illusory state, where we think that we're something that we're not, or we think that other people are doing things or saying things that they're really not saying, or when we have that sense of expectation or entitlement that Hashem should give us exactly what we want right now, and that we deserve it, we're in what Rabbi Nachman of Breslov calls the koyach hamadamer. That's the imagination. But there's two types of imagination. There's this type of unhealthy imagination that I'm describing to you now, and that takes us far away from who we really are and our real gifts and our real alive self and the constructive holy forces that are within you that you need to actualize to achieve and be happy. And then there's the healthy imagination. The healthy imagination is a little different than what secular psychology would consider healthy imagination. We're going to get into that a little bit later on. But we're going to be describing a process that basically goes in three stages. One, we break down the illusions. Two, we're going to be able to actualize not our desires, but our intellect, seichel. And then in the third step, acquire intellect, acquire knowledge. Knowledge is referring to the Torah knowledge that you need. Let's start with breaking down illusions. What are the illusions? Well, as we've said in past shiurim, they include the idealized image of what we think we should be. The perfect genius, or the perfect athlete, or the person who is infinitely wise. And what happens is that a person makes claims. It's not that we just wish for these things. You're not just wishing to be the best in the class or the best in your profession. But you have this claim that you must be. The difference between a wish and a claim is that an erotic claim is something that's a person just has to have. And if they don't, they have all kinds of reactions, emotional reactions, not pleasant. So, the illusions are that we're entitled, for example. A person might have a claim that he should never get sick. He gets a cold and he gets angry because he's got a cold. How could it possibly be that he has a cold? His intellect isn't working. He's in a fantasized imaginary world which is being driven by the evil inclination, the koyach hamadamer. This unhealthy part of the imagination can make a person who's sick and has a fever think he can go outside in the cold, and that somehow he should have special immunity, and he'll just take reckless chances. Or maybe he'll go in the other direction when he sees that his claims are not working. For example, he's not immune to getting a parking ticket. If he double parks his car, he's going to get a ticket. He's going to be just as likely to get a ticket as anybody else. That unfortunately for him, that the rules of reality apply to him equally with everybody else. Or the person might feel as though he's got to be able to win that deal. And if he doesn't win that deal, he has all kinds of tainas. He has claims against others, against himself, and most damagingly, against Hashem. Because who is anybody really to be so arrogant as to think that you deserve special treatment from Hashem, or that Hashem really must give us what we want, when we want it, how we want it. It's an arrogance. And sometimes these things are conscious, but most of the time they're not. Most of the time, a person is seething with rage or resentments, burning up inside, and not even knowing why. Just almost feeling justified that, hey, this is the way it is. Now, if the person's claims are not working for them, then they might become overly cautious in life. And a person becomes overly cautious. Maybe he doesn't drive his car because he doesn't want to take a chance that he's going to get a parking ticket in the city. Or maybe he doesn't even go outside if it's cold because he's fearful that maybe he's going to catch a cold. But this doesn't mean he's given up those claims. They're still there, hidden, but he's concerned that maybe they will not be fulfilled. He's concerned that maybe his claims will not be answered by Hashem. So he tries to avoid doing things. But he really still expects that thing from Hashem. Now this is obviously such an unhealthy thing. And in our day and age, the rabbis tell us that everybody has some of this. We are all living in imagination to some degree, which is, in a sense, fantastic. It's expecting magic. People have this fantasy, for example, if you probe into their minds a little bit, some people have a sense of entitlement and fantasy that they shouldn't get old, that they should be eternally young. This is a taina, this is a claim against Hashem and life itself. People believe, of course erroneously, but they believe it in fantasy, that maybe they'll never die. Maybe the progression of years and the normal lifespan of a person won't apply to him. That he'll somehow be superior and immune to all that mortal stuff. So you see, these things need to be purified. They need to be taken out because they go against the emunah, they go against faith, and they block a person from being able to acquire his intellect. Like we said before, the seichel. Right. Now, when the person is under the throes of the imagination, he is going according to the heart, but not the healthy aspects of the heart. The heart that drives the desires of the heart, the passions of the heart that just want fulfillment, that left unchecked would just burn a person up. We're talking about the desires of the heart for all kinds of materialistic and physical things. Not the burning desire for Hashem yet. That is what it needs to be sublimated into. That's what it happens when it gets purified. It becomes a burning fire to do the will of Hashem, to submit to Hashem, to do the mitzvahs, and to be immersed in Torah learning, which is the way, as we're going to see, of acquiring knowledge, of acquiring godliness, of acquiring our own souls. To bring the upper level of our soul down into our body, into our everyday lives, we're going to have to progressively use the spiritual tools that we have, the holy tools that we have. And that takes away the imagination. So what is the imagination? Where is it? Well, Rabbi Nachman of Breslov says that it is the in-between stage. It's the interface between the physical self and the spiritual self. That the imagination is that place that can draw in tuma into the body. It can draw impurity, spiritual impurity into the body. And it can also, if it's turned around and purified, it can bring a person to the greatest heights. That's why Rabbi Nachman says in the second part of Likutei Maharan, his master work, in Torah number 8, he says that your imagination is where you're going to find your emunah. You can only find your faith in your imagination, which is an amazing concept. Obviously, here he's talking about healthy imagination. He's talking about a person who's evolved to the point where when he's fantasizing, he's thinking about God in some way. He's thinking about heaven. He's thinking about, he's looking all over for providence, for divine providence. His eyes are open to see how Hashem is working with him in this world through the events of everyday life and through people and through conversations and through, in quotes, chance happenings that are not chance happenings. A person like this who's tuned in to Hashem all the time is really in a fantasy, not a fantasy, but he's in a type of imagination that is very, very healthy. Very, very healthy. So a person who is speaking to Hashem in prayer, this person who's learning about his own soul by learning the lessons of Rabbi Arish and Rabbi Nachman, a person who's listening to CDs or going to these types of lectures or speaking with other people about religious topics, the more time that a person's mind is busy with Kedusha, is busy with holy things, the more they're going to move away from imagination and they're going to begin to acquire intellect. Now, it's also people that are involved in community service. We have people that, we're in touch with in different parts of the world who sponsor events and organize events for us. And these people are so busy, taking care of catering or getting a synagogue or a simcha hall for Rabbi Arish to come to, for Rabbi Brody to come to, putting out flyers and advertisements. All of these types of activities are binding a person to their soul and to the Hashem. And it's the most direct route to being able to be joyful and happy and live a good, simple life. Simple meaning is the best. When we talk about acquiring intellect, we're not talking about philosophical speculation. We're talking about speculating about the Torah, about reading the Garden of Emunah, reading a page or a chapter and stopping and then speculating about it, looking deeper into it, and you'll come up with some of your own insights, some of your own understandings. When you apply the garden of gratitude to your own life, and you make a gratitude list, and you see what you haven't been thanking Hashem for, what you need to thank Hashem for more, when you understand why gratitude is a necessary thing, why everybody talks about being grateful, and what is so great about being grateful? Why is it so necessary? When you read it and you think about it and you apply it to yourself, and then you're acquiring wisdom. Then you're doing the work yourself. You're teaching, you're taking the guidelines, you're looking at the Torah, you're looking at a Torah book, and then you're taking it and you're making it yours. You're being kind of it. Rather than just flying through a book and, speed reading, to finish it quickly and start another one, to go slowly through it and really learn something. That's the difference between reading and learning. Learning means you're reading slowly to really digest and understand in a deeper way. This process continues, and after it awakens your intellect. It brings your seichel into your awareness, and then you have your own divine wisdom working together with the divine wisdom that you're learning about. So, we start off by trying to break the illusions. We have to know first what these illusions are that we're having about ourselves. Whether the illusion is that love is going to solve all of our problems for us. That's a very popular American illusion. That you just got to find love, and love will solve it all. Connect to one person, and that person will be your whole life. And life has no meaning other than that romantic relationship. That's an illusion. That's a fantasy. And it's not based on a true concept of love. It's not based on a Jewish concept of love. It's more based on the idea of just feeling safe and being relieved from loneliness. Not necessarily the give and take of an active, loving relationship. A relationship that's based on giving and selflessness and self-sacrifice. That's one type of illusion. Another type of illusion is that, through the strength of your own hand, you can be successful. It's a fallacy. And again, it goes against belief in God. It goes against our knowledge, our Torah knowledge, that everything comes from God, not from us. By yielding to God, we then get the strength that we need. We get the power that we need. Somebody wrote a beautiful, beautiful note to me yesterday. I have permission to tell you his name. His name is Victor Surey. He is a certified Emunah coach from Chile. In fact, he's my only student thus far from Chile. He wrote a beautiful thing. He said that when he gives himself over to Hashem, recently he had this insight. And this is part of acquiring knowledge, acquiring his intellect. When he gives himself over to Hashem, and he gives his mind over, he surrenders his mind to Hashem, he's getting all of the power, all of Hashem's powers, then can come to him. What a beautiful idea. And he said he feels like he's moving back home again by letting go and letting himself feel Hashem's power. So this is this is first of all an activating of the seichel. He got an insight. It was an important spiritual insight for him, which he then shared with me, which then I posted, and I don't know how many thousands of people saw it yesterday and today. Spreading the sparks of Kedusha and Emunah into the world. He's a partner with Hashem. It all started by his curiosity, his wanting, his will, his desire to know something more about Hashem, to come closer to Hashem, to find a way of letting go of the illusion that he has to go through the day nervous and tense and stressed out, and pushing and forcing his way through the day. And no, he stopped. And he wondered, what can I do now to get out of this stress? And an alternative idea was sent to him by Hashem Yisbarach. And that is just relax, let go, and let me fill you with my power. And he lets go, and Hashem, he feels all of a sudden that he's not so fatigued anymore. He's not so tired. And all of a sudden, he's refreshed. He's not so stressed out. And now he has more life and more vitality to go out and do what he has to do what he wants to do. A person who is not connected to his real source of life is always going to be, in some ways, inert. You know what inertia is, or you just can't do anything. Inertia doesn't only refer to not being able to physically get up and exercise and do things we know are good for us. But we can have inertia of thoughts. We can have inertia of feelings. That means just sort of almost deadened ability to think. I'm sure you've experienced what it's like when you feel tired and deadened and inert. You can't be creative. You can't achieve anything of any value. But then when you yield to Hashem, which is your soul's natural desire, then all of a sudden you're filled with life again. And you're hopeful. And you're back in touch with your goals and your aims and your values. And that takes us to the third stage, which is to really acquire knowledge, to acquire your seichel. You're doing that by going out l'maisa and doing things. By actually taking the knowledge now that you've taken it down, you've taken down the chachma, you've turned it into bina, and now the bina is going to go into das. Now you're going to go out and apply it in your own creative way in the world. So the final stage is, we can't just get an influx of wisdom and just put it together in our own ways, not use it. We have to go all the way. And then when you start to go from the potential to the actual, then you have your values. That's when a person finds his or her true values and aims in life, your purpose. Purpose is something that has to be acted on. Everybody has a purpose. It's impossible that Hashem didn't make a person for a particular purpose. Everything in the world you look around has a purpose. The chairs have purposes. That camera has a purpose. This microphone has a purpose. The shirts have purposes. How could a person not have a purpose? But when a person is under the influence of the Madamer, under the influence of the illusory messages of the Yetzer Hara, he can't know his purpose. He can't know his true purpose. His only purpose is to keep up this false image. All of his energy is going just to keep up this false image that, I don't know, maybe he thinks he wants to think and other people to think that he's a holy roller and that he's a super religious guy. And he goes in the mikveh and stays there for hours and he's learning day and night. But he's cut off from people, and he's cut off from his family. So it can't really be part of his purpose. If it doesn't fit, if it's not an organic whole, then it isn't real. So another person might think that his purpose is, to be some, hermit. He's going to go out in the woods. He's going to live in a log cabin. He's going to go to, some kind of non-Jewish place to looking for spirituality. He thinks it's his purpose. He's going to study all the world's religions and he's going to write a PhD about it. If you examine these types of solutions, we almost always find that they are a solution that's a reaction to something else. It's a way of compensating for some feeling of inadequacy. And what is the inadequacy? It's not being connected to one's real self. It's being so in the imaginary world that the person is alienated from who she is or he is, and he doesn't really know who he is anymore. So, he's trying to be something, he's trying to be a fantasy, he's trying to be something that he can't be. Sometimes people will come and you can see that they have this neurotic claim that they shouldn't have any problems. And even worse, even more, a stronger claim that they shouldn't have to work on their problems. So what happens if a guy is got a problem in his marriage, but he also has this imagination that he can't have problems and he shouldn't have to work on them? So he'll come and instead of talking about his problems, he'll talk about his wife's problems and say, see, these are all the problems my wife has. And this is a whole wish list of things that he would like to see happen as a result of marriage counseling. He's dissociated from the reality that he has his own mishigas. And everybody has them. He doesn't want to look at that. People come and they want to lose weight. And the person just wants to stay blind to the fact that if they overeat, they're not going to look like other people that they feel they have a right to look like. How come I don't look like her? How come I don't look like him? Because you're eating too much. But the rules shouldn't apply to that person. They should be able to eat everything they want and still look like their friend. Or he should be able to go for years without exercising and have the muscles that guy has and have the stamina that guy has. It's magical thinking. It's magical thinking. And it goes into this idea of entitlement that I'm praying to Hashem. I don't know for how many years now that Hashem should give me a house or Hashem should give me a lot of money. And he still hasn't given me the house and he still hasn't given me a lot of money. And don't you think that Hashem could see that the person has that sense of entitlement? Don't you think that Hashem could see that the person is angry at him? And that the person might secretly believe that this Hashem is not nice, Hashem is holding back, Hashem is not treating him fairly? Most of the time, these things are not fully within people's awarenesses. And as a result, they can't correct them. That's why consultations with an expert every now and then can help. Because we can help identify what are the delusions and the illusions that are blocking a person, that they might only be dimly aware of, if that much. Once a person knows where the weeds in the garden are, you can start to pull them out. How do you pull them out? How do you move from unhealthy imagination to healthy imagination? The main way is by speaking, by using the voice, by putting into words, by speaking out the illusions that we have and admitting them to ourselves and to others and to Hashem. It's like honey dripping from a person's lips. It's so sweet to Hashem to hear the human voice saying, you know, I have this expectation that everything should go easy for me, and I know it's not realistic. I've got to stop this. I've got to stop expecting that I'm going to be able to write a book without having to toil at it and work at it. A person who's trying to, come up with an invention. He wants to create something and market it. But he thinks it should just come to him like that. Now he has to admit, okay, you know what? I've been sitting around for I don't know how many months and years, and I have this claim, I have this anger towards Hashem that he didn't send me the genius idea yet. Sometimes it's better to stop asking Hashem for things, to take a time out and not keep asking him over and over and over for the same thing, sometimes, if the emotion that's coming off is very negative. If a person is asking for something without that sense of deserving it, without that must, that's different. Hashem loves that. Right? Hashem wants us to daven for everything that way. He wants us to come to him for every little thing, even a button that might fall off your suit. It's okay, Hashem, to daven, to ask, to pray, that Hashem should send another button. But There's a difference between asking that way and asking with an attitude, asking with that expectation that we deserve it. Sometimes the claims, unfortunately, have to do with other people. Most therapists have experienced from time to time that person that comes in that expects you to fix them in one session. Or the rabbi, the person who expects the rabbi to be able to come up with, to fix their lives for them and to give them exactly the answer that they're looking for. And then when they get the answer that they're not looking for, oh boy, what happens then. So, it's all really about speaking out, admitting what we're doing wrong, what we're thinking wrong, how we're not being honest with ourselves. And then by doing that, we clear it out and we are able to get back, our souls. Because all of these claims and visions and images of ourselves and of how we should be, and all of the expectations that we project on other people, that people should be, perfect, and people should be always kind, and that life should always be fair. These things block out Hashem's light. They occlude the light of Hashem to coming into a person. So we need to talk them out. Some people have claims that they shouldn't have to talk about these things. They shouldn't have to come clean with them. They shouldn't have to say, okay, Hashem, I messed up. I gotta, I blew it again. Please give me another chance. That's not for me. Maybe that's for someone else. I shouldn't have to do that. Why? I don't know. Maybe the person is thinking, he did it already so many times. He's fallen so many times. Why should he have to say sorry again? Why should he have to start again? Maybe he thinks if he tries again, it's just going to fail again, so he doesn't try. You know what? If a person is at that level, that doesn't mean he still can't do this. He can just come clean with that. Hashem, I did it again. I lost my temper. I overate, whatever it is. And truthfully, I don't want to start all over again. I'd like a free gift. And you know what? Sometimes Hashem will give you a free gift if you ask Him for it. And if you ask Him with humility, which is, that sense that you don't really deserve it. That everything that we get from Hashem is really, in a sense, a free gift. Because we have forgotten about Hashem. We lived our lives so many years without thinking about Hashem, without being cognizant of Him. We forget about Him many, many, many times, most of the day. We get so immersed and so involved in pushing and forcing ourselves, straining all the time, all day long, that Hashem is, at best, some concept that we have. Once in a while there's Hashem, it's time for Mincha, it's time for Marav. Oh, my Chavus is coming now. But even then, a person may not be really connected to Hashem. He may just be connected to the studying, just to the learning, just to the intellectual stimulation which he's getting. And then that makes it into something that really isn't so different from studying in a college course. And that defeats the purpose. That's really that's not going to connect us to our ultimate seichel and to our wisdom. The very first thing that we learn in Likutei Maharan is that a person has to find the wisdom in everything in life. He's talking about divine wisdom. He's talking about hashgacha pratis, talking about the revelation of God's messages to you and to us as a community and to us as a nation and to the world at large, to see what's going on and be cognizant, to think of it with an emunah brain, to think of it from a spiritual perspective. This takes a shift, a paradigm shift, and it takes a willingness to make that paradigm shift. A person who's willing to do that, Hashem looks at him and judges him according to what he wants, not even according to where he actually is. If you want good things, if you have the will and the ratzon, He's going to judge you as though as if you've already achieved those things in a sense. Because you're thinking about Hashem, because you want a shaykhus to Hashem, you want a connection. Because you're willing to forego your own opinions and you're going to go and ask a rabbi, or you're going to go and look and find out what's in the Shulchan Aruch, what's in the Jewish code of law. And one of the reasons why it's good to learn a little bit of halacha every day is because the halacha differentiates between right and wrong. It's helping with this process of birur, of separating from the unhealthy imagination and weeding out the good things, the good points. And then starting to think about positive things, who you really are as a person, what you're really capable of, where your true talents lie, where your true interests are. What do you believe in? You start to be able to see the positive in life. You'll be able to live more in the present. Look for hashgacha pratis all over the place. And persist and work and have patience with yourself. Have patience with other people. To believe in the process of growth and to be committed to your growth. To believe that your growth is an important thing and that you deserve to take time out every day, special time, to make a plan, to think where you're going, take stock. How am I doing? Where am I moving towards my goals or not? Is this working or is it not working? If it's not working, what, Hashem, do I need to do differently? And if a person's stuck and doesn't have emotions, doesn't have the motivation, he's got to ask Hashem. He's got to ask Hashem, please, Hashem, give me the strength, give me the motivation, give me the will that I don't have. I admit I can't do it without you. I'm floundering. I'm sinking. I'm spiraling down. Please, Hashem, save me. Deliver me. Don't let this happen. I want to serve you, be'emes. I really want to be a true servant. I want to be a true pupil. I want to be a chassid. I want to follow my Rabbi. I want to follow his teachings. Pull me back onto the straight and narrow path. Humility, openness, simplicity, trying your best to put these things into words. This is the key. This is the key. When you speak, when you learn, when you read Rabbi Arish's books, read them slowly, read them out loud. Because when you speak out loud, there's something about speech and the voice that builds a vessel to be able to pull in Kedusha. Particularly when you're saying words of Hebrew, which is a holy language. The words made from Hebrew letters and the vowels, by saying them, pronouncing them, even if you don't always know exactly what you're saying, what you're reading, it's fixing the medamer. It's fixing this problem that people have with imagination, with unhealthy fantasy, with fantasy that takes a person into improper thoughts, improper desires, which can open, chas v'shalom, the door to atheistic ideas and foreign ideas and unclean ideas from impure sources. When you bind yourself to Torah and to a Torah lifestyle, and you surround yourself with people who are doing the same, then you are immunizing yourself. You're immunizing yourself from these sniper attacks, these intrusive thoughts that can get a person. A man puts on tefillin in the morning. He has to be cognizant that now he's wearing something that is very holy on his head and on his arm, on his body. And he has to have a tremendous respect for the Kedusha that's within the tefillin themselves. He has to be particularly careful of what he thinks now. He can't be lightheaded. He has to be heavy-headed in a sense, very vigilant, that the thoughts that come through his mind are proper, and that he has to be sholet on his body as well. That he's in control of his body. So it used to be in the old days that people would wear the tefillin all day long because they were on a level where they could properly think and feel and do all of the right things all day long, and it wouldn't be a bizayon, a disgrace for the tefillin. But today, our generation has sunk down so that most people today only wear the tefillin during davening, during the prayer service. It's just an indication of how far we have to go and how to get back to how our ancestors lived in previous generations, not too many generations ago, actually. If you go back 200 or 300 years, the religious people were very, very different than they are today. Okay, that's not entirely our fault. There's been a Yeridas Hadoros, there's been a weakening of the generations. Everybody knows that. This is the generation of Mashiach. We're right before Mashiach. And we've sunk down to a low level of tumah, of spiritual impurity. But we have all the tools of how to get out of it. And everything here, it's all there, it's all here for us. Hashem wouldn't leave us, chas v'shalom, without the equipment and the tools and the strategies that we need. So, we need to find ways of feeding our souls, of staying in Hashem, in Hashem's world, in Hashem's lifestyle. And, consulting with an expert, a spiritual guide, is essential for everybody. Some people need to do it more on a regular basis, and some people can just, maybe just come a few times just to get started, just to sort of set up a program. But we all need to be working and progressing towards this idea of being at one with the truth, with Kedusha, with purity, with Hashem. And it's not going to happen when a person is still under the throes of illusion. People have illusions and expectations, just to summarize, that they should be the ultimate provider. You should be the ultimate protector of your family. You should have, nobody should have more money than you. Nobody should be better endowed than you are with intelligence or wealth or a good family background. These take a person away from reality. People expect it. There's an element of jealousy here also, and envy, and vindictiveness usually is always there to some extent. How come this guy is more fortunate than I am? How come he has more mazel than me? Well, could be he's judging people favorably. He's praying regularly. He's working on his humility. He's expressing gratitude every chance he gets. He's trying to stretch himself to be less and less self-centered and more giving and generous to other people. So, is it any wonder that he's getting more of the divine abundance, the shefa and the bracha and the hatzlacha, that the other person is jealous of? God is the ultimate authority. And if we could see his divine picture for a split second, we would all agree that exactly the way he's set up your life and my life is exactly the way it needs to be. We'd agree with it. But we can't see. We're like standing behind a curtain and we can't see what's on the other side. And we can only go with trust and belief. And when a person reaches that point where you're ready to yield and really ready to change your life, and live a spiritual life according to the Torah, everything changes for you. It's very rapid therapy at that point. It's a whole shift in a person's outlook. Most of the time, it's a process, but sometimes we see dramatic, sudden shifts. And that's something that you can pray for too. You can pray for that moment of recognition, for that huge insight, that huge moment of clarity that can come to you at any time, that opens you up and makes you see, hey, wow, I've been fooling myself for 20 years, 30, 40, 50 years. And I can't go on fooling myself anymore. I see the truth now. I see where my life needs to change. I see now where I need to be moving, in what direction I need to be moving. And you just put your sneakers on and go out and start running. You start going towards your goal. Because now when you get that insight, when you get that moment of truth, and it's a big one, wow, you're filled with energy. You're filled with hope and energy and the belief that it's really possible. And then you're going to make extra concerted effort, and you're going to get back even more than you ever possibly could have expected you were going to get. You're going to breathe differently. You're going to walk differently. You're going to speak differently. You're going to need less sleep. You're going to need less food. You're going to have lots and lots of stamina, and your mind is going to be concentrated and focused. So that whatever you're doing, you're going to be able to focus totally on what you're doing. And be able to, because your mind is less involved with fantasy and imagination, you're totally focused in the moment, which is where your life is. It's right here. And you're really going to enjoy your life and smell the roses. A person like this doesn't have any crazy ideas about, I can't do things, or I'm running out of time. There's plenty of time. And everything is just fine. Everything is just the way it's supposed to be. So, we're going to stop here, and I want to wish you Shefa, Bracha, V'Hatzlacha, that you should be able to grow and break the illusions in yourself, and to acquire your seichel, and to be able to actualize and acquire your true intellect, and to be able to look into everything and see the beauty, see the spiritual meaning in everything in your life. And with that, you should all be blessed to see Mashiach coming in our day, building our holy temple. May it be His will. Bye-bye.